Today in Of Course Fascists Want You Uneducated and Unaware of Your Own History. Tuesday, August 19th, 2025, Donald Trump says he has ordered his attorneys to conduct a review of Smithsonian museums, calling their portrayal of U.S. history too negative, and said that they focus too much on, quote, how bad slavery was. Now, we know that fascists are white supremacists. We know that Donald Trump pulling back DEI policies starting day one, January 20th. We know that that was all about instituting white supremacy. We know the reason that he is attacking DC and saying that it is urban youths is because white supremacy. The reason that he has called in National Guard troops from southern red states to send them to a predominantly Black progressive city, white supremacy. The same reason that months ago he pulled books by Black authors out of the Naval Academy's library, like books by Maya Angelou. The same reason Donald Trump and Governor Greg Abbott are seeking to disenfranchise millions of Black and Latino Texas voters by gerrymandering the shit out of their congressional map. The same reason Donald Trump is targeting brown people in this country for an ethnic cleansing. It's all white supremacy. Just like Benito Mussolini was terrified of immigrants coming from the Middle East and Africa and diluting the Italian population, outbreeding them, the far right in this country has similarly been paranoid about the Great Replacement. They really got their panties all in a twist when they found out that Gen Alpha is the first majority non-white generation in this country. 52%, is it, of Gen Alpha is non-white. So 48% of Gen Alpha is white. Compare that to boomers. 71% of boomers are white. So, if you are a white supremacist and you see that people who don't look like you believe that people who don't look like you are a threat to, I don't even understand it. I mean, I guess you're afraid that if you become the minority population, that the new majority will start to treat you as you previously treated them. Yeah, I could see that if that is your fear, that they're going to do unto you what you did unto them, that, yeah, you might be worried about being replaced. I mean, it's the same reason we're seeing Republican men start to flirt with the idea of wanting to repeal the 19th Amendment, wanting to push forward the SAVE Act, which would disenfranchise millions of women voters. Men in power see women as a threat. White men in power, they see women and all minorities as a threat. And fascists rely on stoking racism, eugenics, people's fears. They rely on scapegoating in order to maintain their grasp on power and to keep their base distracted, focused, putting all of their ire and desire for retribution and pain on minority groups instead of focusing on their actual oppressor, which is the super rich who are in charge. Right, it's a two-pronged tool. They're racist pieces of shit who hate minorities, but also they want to use racism as a tool to control their base and be able to consolidate their power, manipulate their base into helping them get even richer, even more powerful, and, create suffering for basically everybody who doesn't look like them. Well, and people who do look like them, because Donald Trump obviously wants suffering for his base too. He doesn't give a shit about white men's quality of life. He just wants his white supporters to think that it's Black people, it's women who are a threat. He wants them to think it's immigrants who are a threat instead of understanding that Donald Trump is the threat to their liberty and their quality of life. I know people seem to be horrified when Donald Trump does this stuff, but it's the same playbook that Germany used in the 1930s, that Benito Mussolini used in the 1920s and 30s. So Trump posted on Truth Social, the Smithsonian is out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Nothing about success, nothing about brightness, and nothing about the future. We are not going to allow this to happen, and I have instructed my attorneys to go through the museums and start the exact same process that was done with colleges and universities, where tremendous progress has been made. That's a reference to Columbia University, allowing Trump to put in minders who have decided what can and can't be taught there. Just want to remind folks that Columbia University will be going down in history as a collaborator with fascism and a shame for our public universities and institutions. I covered this, a couple of weeks ago, where the Smithsonian had an exhibit on presidents that had been impeached. And all of a sudden, the part of the exhibit that talked about Donald Trump's 2 impeachments, the only president in our history to be impeached twice, it just disappeared from the exhibit. a little bit of revisionist history. And when that happened, I said, who the fuck in the Smithsonian is in the pocket of Donald Trump? Who in the Smithsonian has sold out the American people? Like, whichever one of you bitches who works at a history museum does not understand the lessons of history and not only is willing to play appeasement for Trump, but you're willing to be a collaborator in engaging in revisionist history and supporting the fascists. Who are you? Resign right now. Quit your fucking job. So then after a giant public outcry, we got this really weak-ass, limp response that was like, oh, it wasn't done on purpose, you guys. We didn't mean to make it sound like only 3 presidents had been impeached and Donald Trump never had been. The cardboard sign was worn out and needed to be replaced. They claimed that it was like an upgrade and that the sign didn't meet the high standard of their exhibit. Just like complete bullshit. You could have printed a better quality sign. First of all, I don't know how a cardboard sign gets like worn out behind glass, but you could have printed a replacement before you took that information out of the exhibit. We know what you did. You can try and play CYA afterward, but we know what you did. Now, when that release came out, they had not replaced that information. They said it would be fixed within the next few weeks. And now we're hearing that 8 museums in the Smithsonian have received a letter from Russell Vought, one of the Project 2025 architects, demanding that they turn over information about their exhibits within the next 30 days. And there's such a deluge of news stories that you might have missed it, but back in May, the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture on the National Mall had at least 32 artifacts removed from display. One of those was a book by Harriet Tubman that included hymns that she was believed to have sung while she was leading enslaved people to freedom. I don't really know how to effectively articulate why it is what is happening at the Smithsonian is making me so angry. I guess it's because I assume that scientists, historians, museum curators, archivists, the folks who are in charge of documenting the history of this nation and communicating to the public not only about what has happened in our past, not only about scientific advancements, not only about our natural history, the folks who are in charge of documenting and defending our history and our culture. I guess I'm just simultaneously really pissed off and just really disheartened that there are people inside the Smithsonian who are willing to bend the knee, who are willing to do the work of the fascists, who are betraying their job, betraying the American people. Of all of the places I expected everybody to hold the line, to make a big stink, to make a stand, I sort of thought the Smithsonian would be at the top of that list. I think this is a moment in history when we all get to be outraged and we all get to be courageous. We need to be refusing to accept other people bending the knee. We need to be calling them out. We need to be pushing back against them, either, encouraging them, boosting them, elevating them, pushing them to find their courage, or chastising the shit out of them when they betray all of us. It's also a moment where we need to find our courage. It's also a moment where if somebody confronts us and says, hey, we need you to go along. We need you to appease. It's this moment in time where we remind ourselves there is no measure of security that you can gain by appeasing a fascist regime. There is no comfort and protection that you can create for yourself by appeasing a fascist regime. Do not throw this nation, do not throw vulnerable people under the bus for the false hope that you can make yourself safe. Not only do we have to live with ourselves from this day going forward, there will be a day when we all have to answer if we contributed to fascism. There will be a day when we will have to speak on our actions now and be judged for them. I also want to remind folks, if somebody else is standing up, is willing to lose their job, is willing to take the heat, to be on the right side of history, to stand up for you and your rights, as a resistance, as an opposition to fascism, we need to figure out better how to support those folks. Community support will empower more people to make a stand. So what does that look like? How will we cultivate that? It has to be more than just GoFundMes. What can we do to help people and support them as they need to find their courage in this moment? And if you're watching this and you work at the Smithsonian or one of the other museums that Trump is going to come for next, what can we do to support you? How can we help you to maintain your integrity, to undermine fascism, and to stand in solidarity with your fellow Americans fighting for democracy?